Director Lohman, you're muted.
Here.
Okay. Director Clark.
Here.
Director Penrose.
Here.
Director Slater Carter.
Present.
Chair Raddock.
Here.
Okay, all present.
Okay, great. So I guess we need a resolution to continue with remote meetings, and that would be item 1B. So could I have a motion and a second? Any discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Director Dye.
Yes.
Director Lohman. Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Penrose.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Chair Raddock.
Yes. Okay, we're moving on to item 2, which is public comment. And we will allow 3 minutes each for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the regular agenda. Do we have any hands raised?
I've received a public comment from Greg Diegers via email that has been sent to all the directors, and it'll be posted on the website tomorrow for public viewing since Greg is not there today. But make sure that everybody's aware about it and has access to it.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other hands raised from members of the public? Hearing of none, we will move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. So if anybody wants to pull an item, now's the time to do it, or we could entertain a motion in a second to approve.
I would like to pull the consent agenda, not the consent agenda, I'm sorry, the minutes. There's some things missing. And so I would like to have it moved to the next meeting.
Was your intent to discuss with staff offline between meetings? Is that the?
Yeah.
And you could discuss it now briefly if you know. Might be good for transparency to just mention your objections or your additions or whatever.
My concern is that the chair made some comments and I didn't see them adequately reflected in the minutes. So I'd like to have a little more detail from those comments in the minutes.
Well, since it involves myself and your concerns, then perhaps we should both meet with the GM to discuss.
Certainly, but I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to do it via Zoom. I'm going out of state early in the week.
That's fine. So I guess we could have a motion to continue item A.
So Chair Ruddick, do you want to move the balance of the consent calendar and then deal with 3A separately?
Sure, we can do that. So is there a motion to approve item 3D, approve disbursements for February 14th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a roll call, please.
Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Lohman.
Yep.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Penrose.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Chair Raddock.
Yes. Like I said, motion passes.
Motion.
So then we would need an item to continue item 3A pursuant to discussions offline between Director Slater Carter and the chair.
So moved.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Director Dye.
Yes.
Director Lohman.
Yep.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Penrose.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Chair Raddock.
Yes.
I don't know who George Evan is either.
Just to clarify what the motion was it to table to the next board meeting? Was that the
Yes, it's to continue to the next board meeting. Yes.
continue to the next board meeting? Very good. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks for helping clarify. Okay, so it sounds to me like somebody should be on mute that is not, because we hear children in the background. If you could mute if you're not speaking, if you could mute your audio. So we're moving on to item 4, which is regular business. And we'll start with item 4A. Keishan.
Yeah. Item 4A is titled as Authorized General Manager to issue a purchase order to Thomas and Associates for the purchase of 5 replacement pumps for the influent pump station at Sam Plant in the amount of $103,807. So the influent pumps are located in the treatment plant, and they are very much in the headworks area. There are a total of 8 influent pumps. 5 of them are small ones, and 3 of them are large ones. At this moment, we intend replacing only the small pumps, which are 5 in number. And these are pretty old. They were probably installed way back in the 80s and 90s, and they've crossed about 30, 35 years. And needs a replacement as soon as possible. So the present pumps are also outdated models, and we don't get spares so easily for these pumps. And these deteriorate faster because they're exposed to the salty environment, and they're always outdoor, and tend to deteriorate much faster than any pumps which are housed indoors. And the entire treatment plant process depends on these pumps, because this is the first stage of the process when the influent is pumped from the influent wet well into the primary clarifier. Therefore, we received proposal from Thomas and Associates for the same pumps in kind, meaning the same dimensions, same suction and discharge configurations, so that there would not be much changes in the piping or any other associated requirement. So staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order to Thomas and Associates for the purchase of these 5 replacement pumps, and these pumps have been also budgeted in the current budget of 21-22. Any questions? Staff is here to answer this.
Any questions from directors? Catherine?
Yes. Can we rebuild some of these so we can have spares? I will say that if we have a 30-year lifespan for the pumps, these, by the time they reach the end of their lifespan, we will have had the same pumps for 60 years. So I can see not upgrading the technology until we figured out what we're doing in the next 30 years. But nonetheless, does it make sense to have a spare or 2 sitting so it can be plugged in when we need them?
Normally, the mechanical equipments, it's not advisable to keep so much of spares, because we would have to do constant monitoring of these mechanical pumps. We'll have to rotate it and make sure that they are greased or oiled for it to last longer. So we would normally keep seals and other wearing out items as spares, which we will come back at a later date. Since these pumps have got a long lead time of about 12 to 16 weeks, for a period of time, we'll find out what are the spares required, and we'll probably plan for those spares rather than for a complete pump as a spare.
So instead of a complete pump, you're going to have a good selection of spare parts.
Correct. That's right.
Thank you.
So Catherine, you're satisfied with that response at this time?
I am satisfied as long as we can operate with one of the pumps or more of the pumps out.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. I noticed that Nancy's iPhone is not muted. Keishan, can you mute that?
Sure, I can.
Yeah, that would be helpful. All right. Director Penrose.
Yes, that was exactly the point I was trying to make. I think one of the things we need to be doing is being certain that we have some redundancy in any of our systems. And if it means rebuilding one of the old pumps, I don't know how easy that is to do, or purchasing a spare pump. If you believe the spare pumps are going to be adequate, then you know what you're talking about. I don't, but I do think redundancy is critical.
Yeah, if I may clarify, I forgot to add in my previous clarification that at any point of time during dry days, typically only 2 small pumps operate. So the balance 3 pumps are actually redundant pumps, which come in when required.
Oh, okay. I'm very satisfied then.
Okay.
Thanks. That's perfect.
Director Clark.
I saw in the Thomas and Associates cost proposal at the bottom, they mentioned that for $1,100 more, we could order better seismically graded anchor bolts for the pumps. And that seems to me like a pittance for, it's almost $104,000 for $1,100. We can get better seismic safety. So I suggest we do that.
Yeah, that's the calculation for sizing, and yes, we will definitely consider that.
Yes, I actually support Matthew's point about that. So I think we need to, we don't want to cut anything, too close if for a small amount more that we could get,
Correct.
better qualified equipment. So.
I would support that.
Yep. We'll add that to the total amount.
Okay, so I guess we need a motion and a second on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Dye? You're muted, Director Dye.
Sorry, aye.
Director Lohman? Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter?
Yes.
Chair Radek?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 4B, authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order to Pacific Water Resources for the purchase of 1 replacement pump for the effluent pump station at Sand Plant in the amount of $103,644. Keisha.
Yes. Yeah, we spoke about the influent pumps, about the wastewater coming into the plant, which is handled by the influent pumps. Now we talk about effluent pumps, which is the treated wastewater after it's treated in the wastewater plant just before it's just on the point of getting discharged to the ocean outfall is being handled by the effluent pumps. So we have a separate pump station, which is called the effluent pump station, and we have 3 effluent pumps, which are housed in it. Typically, at any point of time, the wastewater is discharged to the outfall by means of gravity. Only in the case of storm events or high tide, these effluent pumps actually start running. So these pumps are also pretty old and have gone past the useful life about 30 to 35 years. And therefore, we decided to reach out to the manufacturer and intend replacing 1 effluent pump, which is in kind. And the advantage of using the same thing is, like mentioned earlier, it'll be available in the same footprint and use the existing inlet and outlet configurations. If there are any questions, staff is here to answer, and we would recommend that we issue a purchase order to Pacific Water Resources for the purchase of 1 pump in the amount of $103,644. Any questions?
Any questions from directors? I don't see
Yes.
any raised hands.
Yes.
Director Penrose.
Yeah. Are these pumps used, all 3 of them at the same time during periods of high flow or high tide?
No, but two of them.
2 out of the 3. So we get one new one, and then we if 2 break down, we're not screwed.
Yeah, and incidentally, we've also replaced one of the motors on one of the pumps. So all 3 of them are not as old as, I mean, all of them are not equally old.
Does that response work for you, Director Penrose?
Yeah, I'm a little unsure about the redundancy issue with these. There isn't a time when we need to use 2 pumps at once. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Director Clark.
Yeah, it's unclear to me. Is this replacement pump going to be identical to the one it's replacing, or is this a new design?
No, it's going to be identical to the one which we are replacing, which is existing right now.
So they're 30 or 35 years old, and there's no newer, better technology.
No, not in the case of these pumps. These are just simple vertical turbine pumps, and they don't require any high technology on this part of it. These were anyway be controlled by SCADA, and we have all the required configurations for that.
Okay. Yeah, basic pump is pretty basic.
Yeah, basic, yeah.
Yeah.
Director Dye.
You're muted.
I'm getting it. So with these old pumps, you normally replace many of the working parts, correct? In some ways, an old pump is just the metal casing, because you've replaced the seals and the motor and various other parts. Is that true?
Yeah,
So that's why they last so long.
Exactly. We refurbish it or recondition these pumps quite often, and that's been going on for so many years. And they're pulled out from the installation and sent it to a pump, one of the pump repairs shops, and they either have to repair the impeller or change the seals or bearings, or these things keep on happening.
So I'm very supportive of getting a new pump here because it's a really important function, but many of the older pumps are still functional, and you've been taking care of them through the years, so they perform at least certainly a backup function. Is that correct?
I didn't understand the question.
My question is, once you've replaced all these working parts of a pump, I'm supportive of getting one new pump there, but the other pumps are not like on the edge of wearing out because you've replaced all of the really moving parts within them. So your backup pumps are still very functional.
Yes,
what I'm asking.
They're still functioning. It's not that they need to be replaced ASAP.
Thanks.
Are you good to go with that, Director Dye?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from directors? Members of the public, if you wish to address this item, raise your hand with the raise your hand feature. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a roll call vote.
We need a motion, I guess. I'll make the motion.
Second.
The staff recommendation.
Director Clark seconded it. So roll call, Director Dye.
Yes.
Director Lohman.
Yes.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Penrose.
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter.
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair Alex.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. So sorry.
Yes. Thank you. Item 4C, authorize general manager to enter into a contract for non-domestic wastewater source control, registration, inspection, and permitting services not to exceed $57,805. Keisha.
At the last board meeting on January 24th, it was decided to continue with the ordinance 19-01, which indicates that SAM will be responsible for implementing the NDWSCP program. And therefore, Sam actually does not have staff to carry out this program. Therefore, it has had to rely on outside consultants. Therefore, Sam reached out to 3 consultants for pursuing this program. And at that point of time, the board had also indicated that we can move forward the program with the general manager's authorization. And therefore, the inspection of the NTWSCP program, part of it has already started. And wanted to let everybody know that out of the 10 establishments which are pending for the inspection and permitting, as of today, we've completed about 4 of them, and 4 would be completed tomorrow, inspection. And 2 more, the balance 2 are not being done this week because of non-availability of the establishment staff, but it'll soon be planned probably next week or the week after. And this has also been closely followed by Regional Water Quality Control Board. And during the month of December, we thought that member agencies will, will pursue this program, and therefore we had given a commitment of February 15th. But subsequently, since the board took a decision in January to allowing SAM to pursue it, we reached out to the Regional Water Quality Control Board and have taken time until March 15th to complete this entire process. And they are in agreement with it, and therefore we have moved forward with the inspection. And staff is here to answer any questions. I believe the staff report is pretty much clear about the various scope of work that the contractor has to perform. We also have the contractor TAS Consulting consultants from TAS Consulting, Tim Sudam and Leo Schemp out here to answer any questions, if any.
Okay, questions, comments from directors. I see 2, Director Dye followed by Director Clark.
All right, well, I tried to take a look at these 2 proposals, and it was difficult because it's just a PDF and it's very tiny, but I was able to blow it up and read them and look at the various proposals. And interestingly, I don't know what kind of comparison was done, but the Mark Thomas proposal, which is a local firm, is proposes additional work over and above what's being proposed by TAS. In terms of Mark Thomas includes conduct quarterly and annual inspections and at a significant cost, somewhere between $3,000 and $8,000. And TAS only has, where'd it go? It's really 10 hours a month for 4 months, not specifying it. But the other part that's different about the 2 is that Mark Thomas is a local firm which has experience working with local businesses because they do the FOG program for Half Moon Bay. And their entire other direct costs are $900 as specified for mileage. But if you look at the other proposal, they're saying their other direct costs are airfare, hotel, meals, and rental car, which makes me think that they're from San Diego and that they're going to be charging us for airfare and hotel and meals and rental car every time they come up here. And so I would suggest, I'd like to see some discussion of the benefits of using a local firm that is known, that's been worked with here rather than bringing in someone from Southern California. I know that you like them and you've already worked with them, but I still think that it would be valuable for us to have a local firm working on this project.
Director Clark.
First, I'd like to make a general comment, which is about the non-domestic program, which is that I understand why we are moving toward these 9 or 10 specific firms that have already been identified, and that there is a watchful regional board, which makes sense. But I'd like to emphasize that we really need to get going in coordination with the member agencies on a full non-domestic program. It's been so long since this was done, and I'm really confused as to what's still being done, what hasn't been done since 2014, et cetera. And there are a lot more businesses here now, and we really need a thoroughgoing approach toward the non-domestic to literally consider everything that's non-domestic rather than just a few already identified possible sources. Now I have a question, which is, does Sam have, well, let me say this. The Mark Thomas proposal has their task 1.1 is to create a package for all non-domestic source businesses. Their description of that package is rather skimpy, but I think it's a really good idea, especially when we get going on a much wider non-domestic program, that we have a set of informative documents to let people know what this is all about and how they can deal with it. And do we have such a thing now?
Can you respond to that?
Yeah, we do have standard operating procedures for NDWSCP permit that was issued way back in '94 that needs to be brought to the present scenario. We'll have
Okay,
to.
I have GCSD has obtained an example of such a thing from a JPA district in Southern California, which I think would be a very good model. It's not written by a lawyer or a regulator. It's written for people like us and the potential permittees to understand what they're getting into and how it works, and it gives places where they can get more information, et cetera. I'd be happy to share that with Sam, and I think that we could, this will cost a little bit more, whoever gets the contract, but it will set up us for the future when people are really mystified about why they're even being contacted about this.
Okay.
I would ask.
Thank you very much, Director Clark.
I would ask our legal counsel whether he has any comments at this point about some of the remarks.
I mean, I think I don't have a tremendous amount of legal of comment here. I mean, there's Sam went out and got 3 quotes. I think one of the things Sam has to determine is who's most qualified to do the work. So price is obviously a consideration, but it's not the only consideration. I think it's a question of is Mark Thomas, is he qualified to do the work? And that's obviously not a legal question. That's a engineering professional management question. I think the key is to be able to move forward with the initial stages of the program. And so I think that's a question for Kishen and for the board to determine who's the best fit to accomplish that task. Now, I think if the board wanted to, this item has been agendized under the Brown Act to discuss what, the type of action, but the board could choose to award the contract to someone other than TAS if they chose. I mean, the public's had an opportunity to see exactly what the issue is. And so they, the board could make that choice. This is not a public works contract in the sense that you have very specific procedures. This is it's a professional services contract.
I think that's an important point to keep in mind. Yeah. Director Lohman.
I'm very interested in the discussion that Barbara suggested of local versus San Diego.
Director Dye.
I just do want to point out that we really don't have an estimate of the additional costs for the airfare, the hotel, the rental car, and the meals. And so when you look at the comparison of these two projects, I don't think it's quite a fair comparison. But again, I would like to ask the Half Moon Bay folks, do you have any sense, and you may not because you're not working directly with them, but I know Half Moon Bay has worked with them on the FOG program, and have you been pleased with the work that they've done? Do you know that, or is that something you'd be comfortable speaking to?
Perhaps a little bit later on. Yeah, so if you're done with your question, though, I'd like to ask Catherine, who was next, and then Director Penrose to comment, and then we can discuss further if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay.
Easy.
Director Slater-Carter.
Thank you. I would ask Keishan why TAS was selected. As I recall, you said they had done work for SAM in the past. While local is good, I think skill set is better. So I'd like to hear why TAS was selected.
Can I answer? Okay. Number one, let me clarify. Although we may say Mark Thomas is local and TAS is based in San Diego, the total costs are included. The airfare and the lodging and the other direct costs are all included in the total cost of TAS. So finally, what matters is the bottom line, the total cost, $52,550 vis-a-vis $63,000 or whatever that is. That is one clarification. I just wanted to make it very clear. The second part is TAS Consulting has been working with SAM since August or September when we decided to move forward with NDWSCB. So they know the background, they know what we're looking for, they literally know our ordinance very well, line by line, clearly. Third point, when way back in December, we decided that the member agencies will work on the guidelines and implement the NDWSCB permit separately. Montero Sanitary District had stepped out and said that they would do it themselves, and they would separate out from GCSD and Half Moon Bay and do it via SAM. And therefore, at that point of time, MWSD hired TAS Consulting to complete the NDWSCP inspection and permitting for the one facility that they have. That's Moss Beach Kombucha. So they had already started work in line with the ordinance, what was drafted at that point of time. So they are more familiar. Plus, the balance 10 establishments which we are talking of, which require inspection and permitting, are largely they are wineries, breweries, and distilleries. About 6 or 7 of them are belonging to this category of wineries, breweries, and distilleries. And TAS Consulting has been in that business for a long time, and they are experts in that field. Now, let me clarify another point, that this is required the initial stage of permitting, which requires a lot of work to be done and a lot of inspection and careful guidance to be given to the dischargers. In future, what SAM plans on doing next year is to combine the fog and industrial discharge. So the fog inspection is presently being done by Mark Thomas, and industrial discharge, we have never had any experience getting it done by Mark Thomas. So maybe we can consider it next year of combining that and then seeing, if we want to get it done by Mark Thomas or anybody else, then we can think about those lines. So
Good.
Have I been able to answer your questions?
You have, and I just want to say, I think that, Matthew, thank you for finding that package, and I'd be interested in reading it as well. I always think it's the highest compliment one can make is to use other people's documents, and it saves money too. So I like that. But I think we need to get started on this as soon as possible. So I think that we should go with somebody who we don't have to train about our ordinance and everything else, and start with TAS, and then next year we can talk about Mark Thomas and local or TAS or whoever we need to.
Director Penrose, did you have your hand raised earlier? Did you want to remark?
My question was answered. I was going to ask Keishan why he was recommending TAS.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll go back to Director Dye one more time.
Yes, I had a question. Can the TS folks who are on this call confirm that all of those costs are included in the numbers in this estimate? That the airfare, hotel, meals, and rental car, all those costs are included?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Because it isn't clear from the proposal at all. It's really hard to read the proposal. And I noticed another question, I don't know, maybe I should ask, I'll ask Kishan this. The TS says that the item 8.1 is 10 hours a month for 4 months, whereas the Mark Thomas says is proposing to conduct quarterly and annual inspection for compliance. So quite a bit, I think for a year. Is that a difference between the two? I mean, I just think the question of if you're saying that it's cost and the two proposals are different, it's a question.
Keishan, did you want to respond to that?
Actually, I've not understood the question.
Well, if you look at item 8.1 on TAS and item 7 on Mark Thomas, they're different.
Yeah, it is different now. 10 hours per month for 4 months is assuming that this entire activity goes for 4 months. So it's a not to exceed 52,550. So if the work finishes in 2 months, then it'll be just 10 hours per month for 2 months or whatever. It is just an estimate that it goes on for 4 months. Now, in the case of Mark Thomas, I don't see anything like that.
What about 7.2?
They said conduct quarterly and annual inspection for compliance. Okay. So I don't understand your question. There's nothing on invoicing or anything like that here.
So there's no follow-up by TAS,
After 4 months.
no annual or quarterly follow-up.
Kishan, what was the period of performance for the work? I think that maybe that gets at what the question is. What was the period of performance?
I don't have the schedule. Tim, would you like to answer the question? How long it would take to complete this inspection and permitting?
Roughly 2 to 4 months, Kishan.
Okay. So your scope ends with inspection and permitting.
Yes, we included establishing some reporting and handing off the monitoring and the reporting to your staff
So
once the permits are issued.
Councillor John Bryce.
Yes, I think, and Kishan can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the intent here is just to the initial this initial contract is to get the program off the ground, the inspections, the permits issued, and then there's for procurement purposes there's a host of different ways that SAM could proceed. So I think the idea was that the couple months is just what's required to get the program going, and then SAM has different options. So, but
Yeah, and
it really is up to the board as to what how they best think it can be achieved.
now, in the case of Mark Thomas, who are doing the compliance monitoring and reporting, their scope requires SAM to conduct annual inspections. They would only be reviewing the reports of the inspections being conducted by SAM. It's not that they would come in and do the inspections.
it says conduct quarterly and annual inspection, though.
Yeah,
Right in their list.
Yeah,
They
but
don't need that?
please see the task 7 where they've detailed in the Word document in the narrative. It clearly says that SAM conducts annual inspections and enforces wherever necessary and keeps MA informed of it. So it has to be with SAM. I'm not sure about how often they can do such things. It'll be working with SAM to conduct inspections.
Director Slater Carter.
Thank you. I have a question for Keishan. It sounds to me like Mark Thomas has exceeded the scope of work that they were asked to respond to, and that TAS replied explicitly to what the requested scope of work was defined as. Is that correct? That Mark Thomas was talking about quarterly and annual, and the scope of work you described was 4 months worth to get the program going.
Correct. So the 7.2, as indicated by Mark Thomas, is an additional scope of work,
Okay.
for which they're asking 3192.
And so my opinion is, I don't like corporations that take a request to do a job, suddenly expanding the scope and ultimately the costs. It's kind of like if I ask to have part of a fence repaired and I get the $60,000 to rebuild the whole fence. I think I'm capable of knowing where I'm going and what I want done. And so I appreciate that TAS responded to the request. I am not happy that Mark Thomas expanded their workload.
I haven't had a chance to speak yet. I actually agree with Catherine on this item. It looks to me like the TAS proposal is entirely reasonable. They already have been, doing work for us. We could revisit procurement, as our counselor said, next year. I'm of a mind to just move on staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Can I have a roll call, please?
Director Dye?
No.
Director Lohman?
Yes.
Director Clark?
Yes.
Director Penrose?
Yes.
Director Slater-Carter?
Yes.
Chair Ruddock?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That was a good discussion, I think. And, again, the point is to, move forward on the program and to, certainly have the opportunity as we move forward to evaluate our options. So we're not foreclosing, anything at this point.
May I just add that I am sure they will do a good job and that we will get this program going expeditiously. So in spite of my vote, I accept that they will do a good job for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Dye. Director Clark, did you have one more comment? I see your hand raised.
Yes. Before we leave this item, below the bullet points in the staff report, we have Sam's FOG programs, separate programs not being addressed here. As FOG work has been completed for this fiscal year, how does that happen? So for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months of our fiscal year, we don't need to do any FOG inspections. Does the FOG stop accumulating or what?
No, Director Clark, if I may clarify, the FOG work has been completed for this fiscal year, which means inspections have been done. We've been discussing with your managers, with the member agency managers, and completed the FOG inspection. In fact, other than the regular inspection, we've also done follow-up inspections. We've done 2 follow-up inspections because we've realized that some of the establishments have not complied with the requirements of putting proper grease traps. So we've done follow-up inspections more than once at certain establishments. So, and the reports have also been given to your agencies, so your respective member agency managers have got the complete FOG reports.
When was all the FOG work completed?
I wouldn't say it's still complete. It was completed probably in the month of January, but it was started way back in September or October.
If you'd like, you can have a FOG report at the next meeting as part of the manager's report, but it's a little off topic. So I'd like to recommend that we move on to the general manager's report for this month.
Yes. Okay, on the general manager's report, we have two items I'd like to brief the board about. The first one is at the last board meeting, it was decided that we should have a planning committee and therefore consisting of Chair Ruddock, Director Lohman, and Director Clark. So the planning committee had a first meeting a couple of weeks back, and the first priority item was on the electrical building, revisiting the electrical building study, which was done a couple of years back in 2013. So a copy of the study was given to all the directors, and it was decided that we should do an update of the electrical reliability study, which was conducted by the firm TJCA. So the consultant was, we reached out to the consultant and got an offer from them, and they have now started work on it. They actually came and visited the site last week and did a survey and then putting together a report, and we'll have the report probably completed in about 3 to 4 weeks time, which will be brought back to the committee and thereafter to the board. That was one item which I wanted to share. And in one of our previous meetings, Director Dye had asked a question about the flows during dry weather and wet weather. So Tim Costello has put together certain flows, and I'm going to ask Tim to share what he's got and present his findings. Over to Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
Me?
Yes, I've allowed you to share your screen.
Okay. Let me do this. Oh, there we go. Wait, let me minimize so I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So what I did is I broke down everything. First, I broke it down by the flows coming into the plant. And then I broke it down by districts so that you guys can see what I did was I took a typical dry weather month. So you can see in the bottom of this first slide, or the first picture I have up, that was September of 21, which was one of our driest months of the year in 21. And then I took December, which was obviously one of our wetter months. Yeah, so as I'm going along, if anyone has any questions, just pop in. So this is the treatment plant. You can see here, I mean, this is our normal flow, dry weather, right? The blue line on the bottom. And then this is the December storms that we got. So this was the early December storms. And then in the latter part, the storms. So based on this information was about a 250% increase over our normal daily flows that we receive at the treatment plant. So that is the treatment plant there. Does everybody see what I'm talking about here? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Questions, comments, anything?
Am I on mute? Oh, maybe not. It appears that there was a lot of flow even after the peak of the storms. My guess is now that we're in mid-February, it's gone down to looking like from December 1 through December 9th.
You're talking about like this area here and this area over here, and then how it sort of tails off.
Right. And by now we're even with the beginning of the graph.
I wouldn't say that we're even. We're probably closer to the beginning of the graph, because right now we are in, I was watching some stuff on the news earlier, and it said we're like these past 20 years, over the history of the past like 1,000 years, these past 20 years are the driest that are on record, and they're not seeing anything in the coming years. So that's not necessarily ideal, but yeah, we are probably closer to these flows here. But anyhow, that's the treatment plant. So that's what we looked like at the treatment plant, right? And now what I did is I broke down the individual agencies. This was Half Moon Bay. And what you guys are going to see as I go through these, so you can see where we got the big storm here again, right? Oops, circle that guy. So you can see the big storm here, right? Beginning of the month. And then you can see in this area here, this was a second storm, but as it tapers down in this direction, so it rains and then it tapers down. So this area in here is more indicative of once the ground is saturated. So this area here is going to be more direct inflow, and this area here is going to be more closely related to infiltration because the ground is saturated. So the same thing in this slide. This is a normal dry weather flow, the blue line on the bottom. The orange line on the top is the stormy or the wetter weather. So that was Half Moon Bay. The other thing you guys are going to see is in the second area, in this particular storm, you're going to see where the microclimates are along the coast and how there are definite flow variations and rainfall variations along. So as I gotta go back to mouse. As I cruise down here, so here's GCSD. And you can see it's the same. The patterning is basically the same, right? You got the peak, you got the flows sort of tapers down. Same here, you got the peak and the flows sort of taper down because we have groundwater saturation. But you also have the dry weather flow and then the wet weather month. So Grenada was about a 233% increase. Half Moon Bay was about 240% increase compared to dry weather flows for that individual district. And then, so this one's going to look, now this was in Montara. So Montara, the later storm, because I don't want you to just look at this number, the 348 number, because the Montara storm, it actually stalled over Montara. If you guys look back here, you can see it's less in El Granada on the second storm and even less in Half Moon Bay on the second storm. But you can see where it stayed up in Montara. So that was pretty indicative that it did in fact stall in this area of Montara. So anywho, just wanted to give you guys that sort of flow comparison. If you had any questions about anything, I'm certainly here to answer.
Thank you so much for doing that. Very interesting.
Does that help?
Good.
I will stop sharing because I didn't have any other questions for anyone.
Thank you. That was great.
So I'll send out hard copies to all of you so that you have a copy because it will not put in the packet. And we'll post it on the website too.
Thank you. Okay, attorney's report, item 6.
Nothing specific to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any director's reports? Seeing none. Item 8, topics for future board consideration. Matthew.
Last meeting, I asked that we agendize the maintenance of equipment plan and where that is and how it's proceeding, and it didn't make the list.
Okay, I'm sorry about it. We'll add that.
And that might be something that the planning committee looks at too, because we are going to be reviewing the CIP, for comments. I don't know if you want to send it to the planning committee first before bringing it to the board. Just tossing that out there for feedback.
Yeah, I'll probably touch base offline with Director Clark and try to get more details on what is required. Because we do have the annual maintenance done by subcontractors, whether a report should be tabled or whatever. I'll discuss with Director Clark offline and then bring it to the planning committee.
Sounds good. Okay, it looks like we're going to be convening in closed session, which is item 9. So we will adjourn and members of the public may go home.
Actually, Chair Ruddick, I'm not sure we need one. Let's confirm we actually need a closed session. Kitchen, do we still need one?
No, I have no items to be discussed in closed session.
Right. And I think the evaluations of myself and the general manager are still the operations committee.
Okay.
Yes, the other items were just a placeholder.
Okay, so an early meeting this evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Woohoo!
I don't,
Go for the red wine. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take good
Bye.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
thank you.